What's up, violinists? Today we're going to be talking about how to gear your champions by their unit type, and the topic today is going to be tanks, which are a durable frontline warrior who can take a lot of punishment and protect themselves or their allies. Now, I do want to say that tanks are actually probably the most versatile of all the hero unit types in the game, because they either are going to rely on their HP percent or their defense percent, as well as buffs, debuffs, or shields, which makes them very versatile and very unique builds for each single one. So to get into this video, what I'm going to do is actually start off with HP tanks and then go into defense tanks, and then take it further into what type of tank each can also go based on their skills. So without further ado, let's get into this video. Alright, violinists, so for the very first one, we'll be talking about HP tanks and how they actually work based on their HP only. We will not be going into specific skills just yet, but we will be using my light scan warlord as a HP tank because he does base his attacks off of HP. I currently do not have him built. I've just had other projects before him, but I do eventually plan on playing with him and testing him out because he does have quite a good skill kit in my opinion. But if you were to look at his skills here, his very basic attack is actually based on max HP, as well as his skill 2 is also based on his max HP. So therefore, having a very high HP base on him is going to make him an HP based tank. One of the things you would like to have him gear wise is actually the very one they recommend, and it's Adept Vital, and I would actually go triple HP on your shoulders, glove, and bracer, or you could also do HP defense, just to give them a little bit more tankiness, which I would actually recommend on an HP tank. But however, if you are looking just for higher damage, going triple HP will be the better option. Alright, so for a defense tank, we will be looking at Garai. I chose Garai for this subject mainly because he's a very commonly used unit and people will be mostly familiar with him being a defense typed tank. For defense, you obviously want to have a very high defense base. Unfortunately, mine doesn't. He's more HP based, but if you were to look at his skills, his skill 1 deals bonus damage based on his defense every 4 hits, and his ultimate also does the same thing. Every hit has bonus damage based on defense. So for his gear, you would actually like to have your Garai, if you possibly can, on an Adept Sturdy or Adept Vital, and the reason you want Adept on him is actually because he has immunity, and if you are running him full cooldown or full skill ups and on Adept, he can actually keep his immunity up permanently. Another thing is you will want him on defense HP instead of triple defense. The reason you do not want to run a defense tank on triple defense is because if they do get stripped and defense broken, such as a Xenia stripping my Garai, and she defense breaks him, he's easily one-shot material because he has no defense. Defense breaks do lower your defense by 70%. So this is extremely crucial on having a good amount of HP also on a defense-based tank. So as I said in the beginning of the video, tanks are probably the most versatile champions in the game, and the reason why is because their skill types and what they are able to do in keeping your party alive as well as themselves. So I want to go over a couple of the skills that most tanks are going to have one of, which is going to be either a charge ability, provoke, or a shield, or even immunity. So for the very first one, we will actually be looking at Crude's first skill because it does provoke and lower attack. Both are going to quite greatly reduce the damage that he takes, as well as forcing the enemies, to attack Crude as well, which is amazing since he is a tank and he will be able to take that damage while your damage dealers get their own damage in. The next thing we're going to be looking at is actually immunity from Garai. This is actually rather unique to him. I'm not very sure, but I think he's actually the only tank that applies immunity to himself as well as his allies. Any other tank that I have seen that has an immunity buff is usually to themselves only, which makes it very useful to have a Garai in your team because he not only applies it to himself but to your allies, and this is a defensive type ability. Also, on his ultimate, he has Disorient, which will again lower the damage you are able to take, as well as the ability of the enemy critting on your team. So for the very last one we're going to be looking at is shield units, is tanks. I'm actually putting Grania in here because I'm currently working on her, and I just feel like she and the other espers are quite overlooked as tanks because they have very effective skills if they're built well. As you can see on her very first skill, her every 6 attack lowers attack, another thing that's very common in tanks. She also has a double stun for her first skill with a very low cooldown, which is amazing in my opinion. And then her skill 2, she does have a shield, damage reflection buff, and lowers attack speed, and this is based on her max HP. And then her last one, she also has a fear effect, which is quite useful for a tank because the fear itself is actually going to give you more of a crowd control ability because they're not going to be attacking you if they're feared for those few seconds. Then she has a shield and damage reflection, so she's not going to be taking any damage but putting out even more damage while this effect is going on. Another skill that tanks sometimes have is a charging ability. It's not a buff or a debuff, so I almost forgot to actually put it in this video, but then I remembered at the very last moment, so here it is. A charge ability is actually an ability on one of the skills, whether it is a scanned warlord or one of the siege towers, where they will charge into an enemy and actually push them back further into the back line. Now this skill is actually extremely effective on your arena offense, and the reason for that is if you're using a charger such as this warlord and your back line is full of AoE nukers, he's going to be able to push their tank back into their back line where their supports and healers are going to be, and sit there and start tanking the entire team because everybody's going to focus on your tank and allow your arena offense nukers to just start nuking down that small area instead of it being a larger area where the tank might be pushing into your team. Another ability that's not with a buff or debuff that some tanks have, such as for Vargor the fire tank, is a pull ability. If you look at his dredge skill, it does say it pulls enemies towards him by dragging his hook chain along the ground. I'm not going to read the rest of the skill because that's the only thing I really wanted to point out is this pull effect and how effective it can be. The pull effect can actually disrupt your back line and pull them to your tank and force them to attack your tank since he's closer and going to be attacking them as well. And it can really be effective if used correctly. Other units that have a similar pull ability is going to be the golems. They do have a pull-in effect with an outburst effect that can push them back. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. I do hope you enjoyed it and are able to build your tanks more efficiently because of it. And if so, please leave a comment down below and hit that like and subscribe button for more. And thank you once again for watching, and I shall see you in the next video.